Hello AP students, it's Menenberg here. In our previous video, we introduced the historical thinking skills of comparison, change in continuity over time, and causation. We did so by looking at this unbelievable set of photos, my staff ID pictures for 2 different years. I could go deeper. We have every single year I've been employed at this institution, same picture, same face, same shirt, same everything. But we looked at all the little differences and maybe what caused those differences as we explore these historical thinking skills. In these next couple of videos, I want to take a closer look at what these thinking skills look like on different aspects or different components of the AP exam. So our first one today is going to be comparison. And don't worry, my friends, we are not going to spend any more time than necessary looking at my face. Here, yes. Sorry, let's move on. All right, so I'm guessing you can't read that from here, but what I want to draw your attention to is this word differences. This is a stimulus for a multiple choice question, and the question says the differences in the passage above are most likely the result of which of the following. Don't worry about the content. If you're taking this class and you have not studied Japan in the 19th and 20th centuries yet, don't worry. It's not the point. I want to just highlight this word differences because that is a clue word that you are going to see on a variety of multiple choice questions that tells you you are now comparing. And so it's important to look for those types of words like similarities, like differences, in order to understand what thinking skill you're then applying. That way you can do it more effectively. If you struggle with this skill, answering these questions are going to be very challenging. Again, it's just an awareness at this point of what these types of words look like on these various prompts. They're going to be all over the place, these historical thinking skills. Every single question is going to have one or more of them, so you need to know what they look like. In this case, a word like differences is going to show up. You're going to want to be able to go back in time and, at least in this case, identify something that's one way here and one way here. There's 2 different sources that you're looking at. Easy to do if you're trained to do it, but you got to practice. Now, there's another historical thinking skill that you might see in this question. Because as you read it, it says the differences in the passage are most likely a result. Result is another key word that you should be aware of that likely relates to causation. Another word would be effects. So cause and effect is causations. So result in which of the following. So we're looking for the effects of these 2 differences. So comparison and causation, CCOT as well, as we're going to see, are closely related. It's important to note that because you need to know what you're doing as you answer these questions. I'm telling you people, most people miss questions, whether it's a multiple choice, a short answer, a free response, very, very often. Not because they don't know a lot of history. It's because they do not know what the question is actually asking. So understanding these skills is the first step to unpacking or unlocking what these questions is actually asking. Okay? Let's look at a short answer question. Don't worry, my friends. You do not have to read all this. It's way too small anyway. I'm looking at it right here and I'm finding a little bit of a difficulty here. I want to draw your attention to, though, that key word, different. In part C, it says, explain one way in which the authors focus on different aspects of the experience of women. So that requires your ability to do comparison because you're looking at one source, you're looking at another source. They are not the same. They're not the same author. They're not written at the same time. They're not necessarily even about the same, they are about the same topic, but they're not going to cover exactly the same things. So you want to be able to identify those differences. You may have to identify a similarity, but basically when you're asked to do this for an SAQ, it's imperative that you are very, very specific on those things. So thing 1, source 1, thing 2, source 2. That's what you're being asked to do. It's nothing to do with Dr. Seuss, so calm down, people. You also might expand this type of prompt by telling the reader why that difference or that similarity exists. So here we have which one way they focus on different aspects. Okay, so why might they be focusing on different aspects? What is their goal here? That would be a great way to get your expansion point for part C. Okay, so again, this is how you see comparison in a short answer question. Next, I have a free response question. This is a DBQ, which we haven't necessarily covered yet in your class, but it doesn't matter. We're looking at the prompt to identify these key words so that we know which thinking skill, in this case comparison, most likely is what we're looking for here. I want you to look at the prompt. It says, using the documents and your knowledge of history, analyze the degree to which communist movements affected women's struggle for rights in the 20th century. Now, before we get into the content, don't worry about the content. We haven't covered that yet. Again, I want you to pay attention to the multiple items. So movements, that S right there, tells you that there's more than one thing that you're comparing. In other words, as you look at these documents, obviously there's multiple documents, but even if it's an LEQ, there's nuance, there's differences within these movements, okay, these communist movements. They don't look identical in each time or in each place. So as a good historical thinker, you're able to compare those similarities and differences in a free response question. Now in a DBQ, obviously you're going to have a host of documents to draw from, but in an LEQ, you won't have that. You'll have to look at your historical content that's in your brain from all of your studying. So it's really important that you can be specific though in those differences and or in those similarities. Okay? Again, identifying that little letter S in those prompts is going to help you know that there's going to be some element of comparison in your writing. Okay? Now, this one also has the word affected in there as well, so that should probably clue you in that this is a causation type prompt as well. However, you got to have that element of comparison because there's more than one movement at play here in the case of this particular prompt. This is important. And I want to finish this by just drawing your attention to a bunch of different words, cue words if you will, that relate to comparative prompts. You have a lot of these, okay? And I'm going to stay here for a moment and just let you soak this in. Because if you get these words in your brain and start to associate them with comparison, you're going to be able to much more quickly identify the task that is being asked of you on those variety of different prompts. Short answer, multiple choice, free response, doesn't matter. So I'm going to pause here and have you look at this. Now you can screenshot that on your own time, but again, I want to highlight all of these cue words because the more familiar you are with them and the more familiar you are with the variety of types of prompts that the College Board uses, you're going to see patterns, you're going to see trends, and it's going to be easy to kind of formulate templates as you start to answer these types of questions. They lean one way, usually, and so you are going to get better and better the more you practice this skill. I hope this is helpful. In our next video, we're going to look at change and continuity over time. This is Menenberg telling you again that life is about choices, my friends. We'll see you next time.